I'm not going to spend more time on French policy in Africa, both in the era of colonialism and even what it did. Though I see it to be really strange in the way that French operate in Africa, no? Uh, but just because you made mention of the current French president Macron and his way of looking at the citizens or looking at the country as something that you are not particularly in agreement with, I want to know if this is something strange even to you, if it is something new in French way of being, or is it the way that it has always been? This idea of how to treat people within the nation, who should come in, how do you deal with people, and things like that. Can you share something with me on that line?
Yeah, his behavior is not traditional at all. In fact, he believes in mondialism, globality, and is not very much, well, I don't know whether to say that, but say, for example, he's not very attached, apparently, to the French way of life. Because the very day he was announced as the victor in the elections in 2017, he came for the ceremony and put not the flag of France, but the flag of Europe. And he chose the hymn, the national anthem of Europe, not France, to accompany the ceremony. And that is telling you who he is. And his policy is to keep the borders open. Anybody can come in, legal or illegal, doesn't matter. And he has an enforced policy of sending migrants to even the little villages in France by force. People have to take them on. So the problem is, his view of the country is very different from the view of people like de Gaulle, for example. He has a very peculiar view. I wouldn't want to go into details of reasons behind it, because obviously it's a bit sensitive, But I believe that is his view. Whether you agree or not, that's your own problem, Now, the French view of who is coming into the country and what you do with them is very different from for example, from what's going on in the UK. When I was welcomed as a new citizen in the UK, there was somebody welcomed us, and he said, "You sure many of you have been here for quite a while. You are very much welcome. You don't need to abandon your cultures and your languages. You are welcome. We love all of them, and that's okay." So what he was saying in a nutshell is that you don't need to be British. You can just continue whoever you are. If you are Nigerian, fine, you continue with your Nigerian ways. The French are completely opposite. What they say is that, like the proverbs say, when you are in Rome, you do like the Romans. If you want to live in France, first of all, you have to know the language and, use it well, be fluent. Secondly, you have to behave like the French. So if the French, for example, keep religion and political views completely separate. So you see people on the street, you don't know whether they are a nun or a Catholic priest. They don't wear anything that is showing that. So the same way the French say, you should not wear a burqa or anything of the like, even a scarf, to show that you are Muslims. Is not welcome, because that's their policy. And that policy is the result of a very violent history of persecution. So you have to adopt the country's history, study it, know it, understand it, and then you fit in. And the culture, you have to learn the ways of the people. What the UK is doing is this is a free for all. We give you a patch. I have my patch. You have your patch, and we don't mix.
All right, like I said, I'm not going to go deeper in the French approach in Africa, and even in these citizens. Because of course, I believe that French and France have the right to maintain its own alignment, how you want to see the world and the rest of it. The only area I usually have problem is when this one is imposed on other people. Because I'm not sure it's even very clear. How Africans became French. Anyway, we're not going to go into those areas because those areas, if we need to go there, we're going to explain it in detail. So there's no need just shooting it and not explaining it. So the French policy of assimilation is something that we really need to explain, but that is not for today. So let's leave that aside. Let's leave the idea that French soldiers are found in Ivory Coast or in Cameroon. Why is it like that? Because usually you would expect that the only reason you will see a French in an African country is when France declare war on that country. But that is not the case. We see French soldiers all across Africa. This is, of course, based on the kind of how French see its colony in Africa. Again, we are not going to those areas. Now, you said before that all the description that you gave of your experience in UK are not racism as it were, no? All right. Now let's even go to the root itself of racism, which is race. What does it mean?
For me, race doesn't exist. There was something that was interesting that lady said yesterday was that it is a social construct. And I really, I've studied it. I believe it is. It was not existing before. If you read people that were not originally from Athens, in Greece, were called metek in French. Metek, it means foreigner. And you read the Bible from cover to cover, there is no mention of race. There are different people that are mentioned, but usually from where they come from. And race was something that was invented to discriminate against people. And the unfortunate thing for me, that's my own views, is that the people now say, African Americans, for example, or even Africans that come into another country, like come to France or come to the UK and claim that they are Black, they are just like using a prejudice and agreeing with it. It's like the rappers in America that call themselves niggers. It was an insult, and now they are using it and claiming it. And what they are doing, these people, is they agree with something that they should not agree with and claim it for themselves. And when you do that, you separate yourself from the others. Just like when I was at Nsukka, I never said I'm Oibo. I was just one of them. And the way I presented myself is the way they took me. And I believe that a lot of so-called racism is caused by people behaving, making a difference, setting a difference between them and the other people. I give you an example. In the UK, I know that there are many Nigerians that's has been proved beyond doubt by the whole of my family, my children included, is that they tend to stay in their own bubble. They have Nigerian churches. I remember the first time I heard, people asked, don't you want to go to a Black church? And I said, Black church? What is that? There's nothing like that in the Bible. And in heaven, there's no Black church, I'm sure. Now, this Black church was, in London, you have Yoruba churches, Igbo churches, just like you have Chinese churches. People congregate. One time I went to a church that was completely Yoruba. And what it meant was that the service was in English, but after that, people were chatting Yoruba. I didn't understand Yoruba. I wish they would have spoken Igbo at least. But no, And so they do that. Then during the week, they only meet with the people from that church. So they visit, the children go to play with the other children, all within the Nigerian community. They go to shop on East Street, buy Nigerian stuff. They only eat, rice and stew very plenty. And they dress Nigerians. So in effect, they don't know anybody that is not Nigerian. And if they meet them, like somebody said, a person that was well learned one time said, they and us. And I was just there thinking, which group I belong? I don't recognize me as us, but I don't recognize me as they either. You make a difference between they and us. Immediately you do that, it goes bad. And for example, you see many people that are talking, say, for example, they will say, oh, all Nigerians are bad. Oh, but Mr. Obi is really nice. Because why? Mr. Obi is their neighbor and they know him. So that one is constructed as a neighbor, not as a Nigerian, because he's interacting with them, you see?